Hello. I thought it was a while since I've been on here for a little chat, and there were a few things on my mind lately, and I thought it would just be interesting to run through them with you. And I've been working on a course, a beginner's course on intuition. Now, the reason for that is I enjoy creating courses, number one. But number two is I come across an awful lot of people very confused, as if whether they're working intuitively or what we call evidential mediumship. And by evidence, we're bringing through evidence of life after death. And a lot of people, when you talk to them, when I've been teaching them, have really kind of skipped that part of delving into the intuitive soul. And it's crucial. Let me give you one example. Many years ago, I would be doing private readings at home, and a lady came to see me, and I asked her what it was she would like, whether she'd like an intuitive reading where we looked into an aspect of her life or her life in general, or something that was on her mind, even a decision she needed to make, which would have been intuitive. We would have called psychic, and psychic comes from the Greek word meaning the soul. So that was one aspect that I offered, and the other aspect was I said I can do an evidential one where I connect to your loved ones in the spirit world and bring you evidence that they're still alive and well, just in the next life, in the afterlife. And she said, I want that. So I bust a gut on this reading because she looked totally disinterested, and I thought, I'm doing very badly. So I went on much longer than I should have done. I brought through this amazing, what felt like amazing evidence, very specific evidence about her loved ones in the spirit world. And then at the end of it, I said, I'm drawing to a close now. I can't keep going. Their energy's fading. My energy's fading. And she said to me, yeah, okay. And I said, are you okay with that? And she said, not really. Oh my God, I've really gone to town on this with evidential and worked my little spiritual socks off for her. And she said, what was the point of that? You just told me what I already knew. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I knew what my father's job was. I knew what my grandfather's name was. I knew where they lived. I knew about their personalities. You've just told me what I already know. And we had a little discussion about this because I said to her, so does it give you evidence in any way that their life continues after death? And she said, well, yeah, but I know that. I said, well, you asked for evidential, so that's what I've done for you. And I said, what did you really hope to get out of this sitting? And she said, well, I wanted to know if I should accept a marriage proposal from a boyfriend. And I thought, right, I could have saved myself a whole lot of work if she had said this at the beginning, not told me necessarily what she wanted completely. I would have had to have done some work to find out more, but actually not focus on working with her loved ones in the spirit world, but focusing on her, working with her soul, working on the psychic, on the intuitive level. And I guess the big question is, as an intuitive, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I see that coming? Not that we're predicting the future, but I should have been able, and I could have done if I'd have tried, but what I really should have done was sat down and tuned into her intuitively. And then I probably would have got some idea that she was someone who was looking for answers within her life rather than evidence of the afterlife. And even though she did specify, after I explained the difference, evidential, it's not what she really wanted. So I could have taken a little bit of time. And there are a number of teachers who taught me an awful lot about this, that I want to share this with you, and I've put it into practice, and I totally agree. And the first one is when you're giving a private reading. I was asked, and I had just become a tutor at the Arthur Findlay College, and I was asked by a very great teacher, do you go straight in with an evidential reading to the spirit world, or do you do some psychic work stuff? I said, no, I go straight in. That's what they want. I go straight in. And this wonderful teacher said, have you considered that it might be an idea to put the person at ease and just start working with their energy first, and just ease your way in and check whether they're ready, because this can be a very emotional experience. And sometimes it can lead to more questions than answers, because people become very overwhelmed when you make a good evidential connection. And I thought, you know what, that's a pretty good idea, because I do remember some occasions when people would come to my house for a reading and they'd be shaking like a leaf, thinking something very awful was going to happen, or terrifying, or they needed to be put at their ease. So if I'd have spent a few moments sitting with them, sitting with their energy, even talking to them, saying, you know, do you need to relax a little bit more before we start, because I was sensing that they were anxious or something, actually that would have been quite a good thing. So I started to change things a bit. And prior to that, there was another thing that really stuck out in my mind, was I'm going back to about 1997, 1998, and I was sat at the back of the sanctuary at the Arthur Findlay College, and Glynn Edwards was giving a lecture to the whole course. Now, in those days, Glynn's courses filled the college. He was a marvellous teacher. I use the word marvellous because it's one of his favourite words. And he's now in the spirit world and greatly missed. But Glynn had studied many different religions and faiths and philosophies, and he'd spent time in India. He'd started training to become a priest before, you know, his mediumship and his exploration into spirituality took him away from that, and he was really interested in belief systems and philosophies and wisdom. So he was incredibly knowledgeable on these matters, and had spent a great deal of time not only studying but learning the practices. So when you sat in one of Glynn's lectures, it was filled with wisdom that was very worthwhile listening to. We don't all agree on everything, but we should listen to everything and then decide what we agree. But one of the things Glynn was talking about was mediumship, and he just said, look, I don't give us monkeys if you want to call it the spirit world, if you want to call it psychic, if you want to call it evidential. It is all spirit. And of course, there were all these different courses and teachers who were giving the message that, oh, you know, no, I think you're on the psychic level, not the evidential level. And you need to do a course in evidential mediumship, or you need to do a course in psychic mediumship. You don't know the difference. And so you have a lot of people thinking, oh my God, I don't know the difference. And what happens is, as they progress and they keep training, they still don't know the difference, and they still question themselves, and it affects their confidence and their ability to work. And at the end of the day, what's really important is that you believe what you believe to, you know, to be true for you, not just because of what someone else says. But I totally agree with Glynn in that it is all spirit. So just coming back to this course, which is interesting, I've taken it right to very beginner level, because I would love to be able to create just a short course, but a really good foundation saying it's this because of that. And because of that, we have this and then that. And so everything has a journey. Everything, one part moves into the next quite naturally and organically and makes sense. but also it may even be backed up by science. So, as I'm writing this course and we're talking about energy and spirit energy and soul energy and intuition, then we look at the first law of energy, that, energy can never be destroyed. It is only adaptable, it can only change, and it is constantly changing. So we look at a lot of things like that, and I think it's really important that people do have this great foundation in intuition. It's very worrying when somebody doesn't, and they are purporting to be speaking to somebody's loved one and getting information, and they're not. They're tuning in to the spirit, the eternal spirit. They're tuning in perhaps even to the soul of the person that they're working for, who's living in this world. It is all spirit. What I really want to say is how important it is that not so much the difference, because I believe that when you come to know spirit, you realize there is very little difference. The afterlife, I don't believe, is a parallel world. I believe if we go back to the place that we came from, having fulfilled or unfulfilled what we needed to do for the soul to rejoin with the spirit, the eternal spirit, then, it's very difficult to say one is the afterlife and one is this life, because all this life is spirit as well. Every tree, every gust of wind, every raindrop, every animal, every human, every crystal, every little piece of soil is spirit, because spirit means energy. It is life force. And I think once we can really focus on people acknowledging and knowing life force in themselves to a degree of confidence, then we're going to get rid of this business about, well, is it spirit? And that is a problem, because people refer to our loved ones in the spirit world as spirit, when in fact our loved ones in this world are also spirit, and so are we. So it becomes very difficult with the language that we use. But I do think the more that we get to know our own spirit, that's going to really help. And exercise is like sitting in the power. I do believe in educating ourselves on these things. I never take anything as truth just because somebody who's very popular or well known or well established or well written about said it. I will question everything, and I hope I always do, and I hope you do as well, because my truth may not be quite the same as your truth. We are. If we're spirit, if we are soul incarnated into this world, which is an aspect of the spirit, then we are unique and individual, and your truth could be different to mine. So I agree with Glynn that it is all spirit, but I also agree that we must not ignore the intuitive aspect, because the intuitive aspect is the soul experience, and the soul experience communicates. And if it communicates, we must listen. So there are a few thoughts there about the importance of intuition and where my mind has been lately while I've been writing this course, which is probably about 20% written at the moment, and it hopefully in a few weeks' time it will be released. But I do think it's important that we really grasp the basics before we start saying we are talking to someone's loved one who has passed, that we're doing something like healing grief by doing this work, which I don't believe we do. You don't heal grief, you learn to live with it. And that is my take on it. I think you can heal a curiosity in someone with evidential mediumship, but I don't think you ever heal grief as such. That's a whole nother area. And I want to encourage you to question, and perhaps we need to look at the language. When you start saying that I got this from Spirit, or Spirit are telling me, who do you really mean? Do you mean Spirit as in life force of a person who lived before? Do you mean Spirit of a person living here? Do you mean the spirit of someone yet to live here? These terms are far too broad and generic, and we really need to look deep into this within ourselves. And as we learn, we get to know. But it will be your truth. And I just wanted to share those thoughts. And if you've been having any thoughts or concerns about them, you're not alone. These are huge questions, and they're very important. So, keep going. Keep loving life and loving your work, and keep learning. Bye-bye.